Hey Daniel, I was so touched as I met you in California at Weimar by your testimony, by your story. And this is the reason I asked you, can we record that? That's so amazing. Daniel, thank you for taking time for this interview here and listening to your testimony. So share with us what happened in your life.
Well, what can I tell you? My life it's been an adventure of ups and downs, whereas the downs have been higher and the ups have been higher even more. So it's been a continual growth, but it wasn't so, and it didn't like so when I was a teenager. The only thought in my mind was that I was not fit for this world, that I should die, that I shouldn't even have come to this world. I was really depressed and sad. I came to the conclusion that the world was very evil and I didn't want to be part of it at all. It was just full of selfishness. So I had my first suicide attempt when I was age 14. I thought that probably if I was able to end my life, then nothing else existed. It did come to mind when I was in the process of throwing myself down from a bridge in that occasion, that what if God exists? What if God is real? What if there is something more to life? And I'm sure it was probably Him put it in my mind that there was more to life than what I had already experienced. I grew up without a dad, so I started working since I was 11 years old, and in the streets I found many bad things, like I ended up using drugs and alcohol. But that day I was not successful in throwing down a bridge because that question lingered in my mind, and I thought, let me hold off a little bit. But it was not my only suicide attempt, that we had some others. And in my search of life, I tried so many religions. I went to the Hare Krishnas and yoga and New Age and Catholic. That's how I grew up, and religious, and they all were about sort of a lifestyle, but none of them really took me to the core of the real sense and the real meaning of life, until I finally was found by God, and I understood that God had sent His Son to forgive me of my sins, to cleanse me, and to put His Spirit in my life to give me a new life. And when that occurred, then is when my eyes were really open. That's when my life was completely changed.
So tell me a bit more about that. So was that in Venezuela or was that in the States?
I was living in Venezuela back then. I could tell you that, for example, I didn't understand. I thought it was sort of luck. For example, one of my suicide attempts, I had a small Volkswagen Beetle. I loved this car. I had worked very hard in rebuilding the engine. It was a 1600cc engine, powerful engine, and I had done everything. And one day, out of my depression, I decided, I was going to use that car to kill myself. And I took off at full speed on a highway and went over a cliff, and I went down the cliff, and the car was totally destroyed and didn't have a scratch. In order to exit the car, I had to squeeze myself out, and it didn't click. But it wasn't until I found God that it's like my eyes opened. Oh, it was God. It was God who saved me back then. So when I gave Him my life, I decided that I wanted to be a worker for Him. I wanted to help others that were probably in the same situation I was, without hope.
Wow, that's powerful. That's so amazing. And what age did you have as you found God in your life?
Well, I wish it had been sooner, but I was already 30 years old.
30 years old?
But by the time I completely surrendered my life, and I decided I'm going to give God all of my life, all of this space, so He can be in me and bring that happiness and that joy and that peace that I had for so long in so many religions and so many lifestyles, including alcohol and drugs and everything, and a promiscuous life had been looking for, but unsuccessfully, of course. I did not find the peace and the joy and the purpose that I wanted in life until I gave God the space in my life that He needed.
Very powerful. What happened then?
Well, when I became a follower of Jesus, when I became a worshiper of God, the God that created everything, my life turned around. I had just become, and it was here in the States where that happened. I had just become an entrepreneur. I had a company, a communications company, and I decided that, why not, if God is the owner of my life, why not have Him also as an owner of the company? And I said, I'm gonna be a partner with you, God. So we're gonna split the profits. Okay? You're gonna help me. We're gonna make the decisions together, and we're gonna split the profits. And we started doing that, and the business started prospering a lot. Making good sales. I would go to business deals with big companies in Miami. This was in Miami, Florida, and the owners of the company that I was making the proposal to would tell me, I don't know why, but we want to do business with you instead of the other companies giving me a better price, or this other company that has a big structure is charging me more, but they have many more years of in business than you. But I feel that we should go with you. I have a sense my God is telling me to buy from you. So I knew it was God, helping us, because we were using what God would use, what God would tell me to do with His part was always to help the poor, to feed the hungry, to help those in need. So we would use God's part of His profit, was 50%, to send it to the poor, to send it for the missionaries, for the people that were doing the work of helping others. And it was somehow growing the amount of money that was coming into the business. So I said, God, you're blessing us so much, so I'm going to do 60% for you, and I'm just going to keep 40%, because 50% was already too much. But that didn't do it. It was still 40% of our profits keeping for us. It was still a lot. So I kept on reducing the amount I was keeping, and increasing the amount that I was giving for God's work among the need of people, and it was still too much. So I ended at the end, at the beginning of the 2000s. We had started the company in 1996, but by the end of around 2004, 2005, 2006, I was just keeping what we needed for our living expenses, for paying our mortgage, our cars, and food and everything. And we always still had it in abundance, and the rest, it was being used by God. But let me tell you a little story, a miracle story. I remember, doing what God would tell me to do with His money, to send it to the different projects, orphanages, places where they were helping the poor. And I remember one month that we did that. We sent all the money there, and then came the end of the month, and we need to pay our suppliers. And I tell the secretary tells me, we need to pay the suppliers, but there is not money in the bank. How are we gonna do? And I said, I don't know. Let's see if we can, let's talk to the collections department to see if there's any checks coming. And there was not much promise anytime soon. And we needed to pay that week. And so what I said, just let me ask God, because He's my business partner. So I closed my office, I went on my knees, and I said, God, how are we gonna do? You told me to pay to send the money to all these people that are needing money for their projects, and now we don't have money to pay our suppliers. And you know what God told me? He told me, send the checks to the suppliers. I said, Lord, you don't understand. If I send the checks, they're gonna bounce, and it's gonna ruin the credit of the company. And he told me again, send the checks. Lord, okay, I'll do that. So I called the secretary, said, go ahead and prepare all the checks. Okay, so she did. She brought them to my offices. So I signed them, and I said, send them. What? You crazy? No, don't do that. They're gonna bounce. I said, listen, I'm following orders from my business partner. Send the checks. I sent the checks. The week went by. I totally forgot. Sabbath came. Sunday I remember. I sent all those checks. I wondered if any money come in. So I checked the checking account. No money had come in. Only a little bit, like $200-300, something like that. But I had sent checks to the suppliers over the $10,000. And I started panicking. He said, wow, Lord, I think you made a mistake, or maybe I misunderstood. So Monday morning, very early, I go to see if there are any checks in the mail. Nothing, like $700. He said, Lord, this doesn't cover. So I called the bank and I said, please, I want to check on some checks that I sent last week, and I totally lost track of them. You see, this check number, and I would tell them the number. He said, oh, that was paid. Hold on, really? Paid? I mean, the money was his. Yeah, it was. The money was withdrawn from the company, from the bank. He said, but no, it can't be. I didn't have that amount of money. Well, I could tell you that you had that amount of money because the check was. What about this other check? What about this other check? And they were all paid. And I didn't understand because we didn't have close to $2,000 in the bank account, and it was over $10,000 worth of checks that were paid. And then I understood that our math is not God's math. So how did he do it? I don't know. But that taught me a lesson. It taught me that God can do things that we don't understand and we cannot explain. But he wants us to trust him. So I decided from there on that I wanted to trust him. So when I went through one of the big trials that I had just a few years later in 2009, my wife passed away. I was with 3 children, and I didn't understand that. It really moved me because I wanted to be a missionary with my wife and my children and dedicate, but I didn't expect things to go in that direction. So God told me that He wanted me to serve Him.
I come to this point, it's a very important point, but I just want to understand a bit more about what happened, what you just told us, as you involved God as your partner in the business, right?
Yes.
So that was a very amazing story. I think you had a partner before in business, right? Mm-hmm. So how did you do that with God and your partner in the business, first of all?
You mean the partner that I opened the company with at the beginning?
Yes.
Oh yes, I didn't mention that. You know, I had a partnership with another person. He was a brother on my father's side, but when we started the company, we had made a deal because we had also worked together in Venezuela in communication. This company was a communication company. We would sell and install phone systems and networking systems and all this. Surveillance system and phone system. Anyways, so he was my partner, but we have made a deal where we would do everything according to God's principles. But you know, he started messing up because he started seeing another woman that was not his wife, and I told him, you know, we're not gonna be blessed by God if we're doing anything that is dishonest, and that what you're doing, having an affair, is dishonest. So we split. He kept one part of the company, and went on his own, and I kept another part of the company. And we do that by dividing the assets, like tools and materials, and also dividing the amount of customers. So he kept a big bulk of customers, and I kept another bulk of customers.
So
And
what happened during the time when you had this partner? Was it 50-50? He got 50, you got 50%? Or?
no, because when we opened the company, we had agreed to make God our partner. So it was 3 equal parts, but we decided to give God 34% of the profits. So it was 34 for God instead of 33.333. Each one of us, it was just 34 for God, 33% for him, and 33% for me. That's how it worked. But once we divided, we split the company. Then it was 50% for God and 50% for me.
That's amazing. And so you have been living at Florida beachside, right? You had a nice house at the beachside, and you had cars, and then you decided to give God more than 50%.
Yes, because I noticed that keeping 50%, we had a house, we had cars, everything was almost paid off. So I didn't need that big amount of money. So that's why I said, I like more what God is doing with His money. What God is doing with His money, with His profits, is helping others. So he said, God, I'm gonna give you 60%. I'm gonna keep 40%. And it still continued being too much money. Then it was 70 and 30, and then 80, and then 20, then 90, and then 10, and still was too much money because I could pay everything, and I was still left with too much money. So I said, God, I'm gonna just use what I need for our living expenses, our mortgage and our insurances and this and that and food and whatever, and the rest is for God's service.
So what did God do with all the money?
Well, he would tell me, send this for such and such people that are helping the poor people in Asia or in Africa, or people that were training workers for God, helping young people to take the right path. So he would tell me to send those amounts. So we went always running in the amounts of thousands of dollars here, thousands of dollars there, and also once in a while, helping somebody that I personally met that was involved in community service, also helping them, giving them a little bit of living expenses.
So God was very interested in helping people.
Yes, he still is.
He is still. Amen. That's a powerful testimony.
Yes, and I love being a worker for him. There's nothing more rewarding, nothing more fulfilling than be part of the change in the lives of people.
So this is something I wanted to ask you. Now you are very successful. You became even global one in your part of business, right? That's what you told me. Nobody sold more than in that company area than you, right?
Yes, we decided to stick with a brand. So Panasonic was the brand we decided to stick with. And so we came number 1 in the United States, where we were the ones selling the biggest amount of Panasonic products. So they would have promotions, inviting us to Japan, to the main factory, or paying for us to go to another country, things like that, as prizes, because we were selling a lot. And they would ask me, what's your secret? And I told them, you put God first, family and others second, and God will take care of the rest. No, give me your secret. How can you be making? That's a secret. You place God first and help others, and God will take care of the rest. And they couldn't believe it, but that's exactly how it went.
That's so beautiful. That's so powerful. So here you are, a very successful businessman, and you're totally helping a lot of other people through different ministries, and they are helping people. And now you told us that 2009 something big happened in your life.
Yes, all these years I wanted to instead of just sending for others to help uh, uh, the needed, I wanted to be involved. I wanted to get my hands in the work. So, but my wife and I dissented on doing that. You know, we were comfortable, and she did not want to do that. So I was asking God, you know, to touch her heart, so we would all be with the same mind and go and serve God, be workers for God, wherever He would lead us to do that. And sadly, in 2009, after she said, you know, maybe I'll do that, which made us all in the family, my three children and I, very, very happy. That's the same year that she passed away. She contracted a flu that turned out converted into a lung infection, which became pneumonia, and then she died from complications of pneumonia. And that changed the rules of the game, because now I was a widower with three children, but God kept placing in my heart to still go and prepare so I could be a worker for Him. One of the things that I had done in order to become a worker for Him was to become a pilot. So I had already become a pilot, I had my license, and I was flying, and I needed to learn more about natural remedies, how to help people that were sick and all that. And God, that's when she died, God led me to go to a school in Wildwood, Georgia. Spent 3 years there working and studying, and then 3 years in Weimar, and finally left to work as a missionary in Venezuela. At that time in Venezuela, the things were getting worse. A big economic crisis and social crisis in the country. Lots of need, lots of reservation. So that's where I ended up going.
That's a very hard story. With 2009, your wife dies. You have all this wealth. You're supporting people through money, what you gave to your partner. This was God in business. But at the same time, what I understood is you wanted to get your hands wet. You wanted to be part of that, right? Not only have all this wealth and being a very successful businessman, probably one of the most successful ones in the Panasonic area, right? You wanted to change your life. You wanted to serve yourself, right? That's what I understood. So was that a big, difficult decision to transfer from a businessman to be, let's say, a full-time worker for God?
Yeah, it was humbling. You know, coming, for example, from living in a two-story, 5-bedroom house with swimming pool and a yard, and you know the comfort of having everything we needed to come and live in an RV and small quarters and with a medium capacity heating process during the winter and no air conditioning during the summer. It was humbling. It was life changing. But you see, it's not the external circumstances what determines how happy you are. If you have peace in your heart, when you are where God wants you to be, you're happy. You have peace when you are on the steps where God wants you to be walking. So we were happy. My children were happy, so was I, and we were studying and preparing to serve God by serving others that were in need.
That's so beautiful. And now we probably understand better because you are working at Weimar University with Dr. Neil Nedley. You are helping him out since many years. I don't know how many hundreds of people you have already accompanied in the depression recovery seminars. You are responsible for massage, for the sport, for the water treatments, right? Yes. And now we understand better how life, as you had your own depressions, how this, even though shaped your life today, and now you are helping other people to come out, right?
Yes. Yes, you know, when you go through difficulties like the ones that I experienced during my childhood, my teenage years, my youth, you wonder why me? Why do these things happen to me? Why did I have to be between the ages of 4 and 11 molested sexually? Why did I have to be without a dad and got beaten up so many times trying to defend the honor of my sisters? Why did I have? Why was I with the wrong crowd to introduce me to the use of drugs? And you wonder, why me? Why do these things need to happen to me? But it has been all these years after I finished my studies in Weimar that they asked me to please continue helping them with the clinics they do for depression and anxiety. That I've been able to encourage so many people to share with them my testimony, to share with them the disappointments in life, how God turned them into appointment, how God turned them into blessings. Those things that look like, you know, a bad thing, now they were a good thing, and be able to encourage others to come out, to stand up, to get up, and to start walking with God is so rewarding. So if I had to go back in time, if I had to relive my life again, I think I wouldn't change one thing, because it's been more of a blessing to be able to have a testimony or an experience where I can tell people, listen, I was there myself, and God took me out. He can take you out also. The rewarding experience of helping somebody else is way bigger and higher than the negative experience of having gone through those situations. So I would not change one thing, because it has helped me help others and experience the joy of helping others. So I've been able to, over the years, it's been 2015 when we left to go full-time as a worker for God in Venezuela, that I've kept on coming and helping on the depression and anxiety recovery programs and helping so many other people. So I would say hundreds and hundreds of people over the years.
That's so nice. I have seen on this convention here in Orlando that two people came to you and they were so happy. They said, thank you for your service, what you have done at Weimar, depression recovery. They were so happy. I could see the thankfulness and also their happiness on their faces.
Yes, because I was able to be part of their journey in lives, and there are so many emotions involved when you're coming from getting up, you know, you're in the mud, you know, of an emotional situation in life or a trauma, and then somebody has extended you the hand. And even though I wasn't the only one, you know, I'm part of a team, and my wife is part of a team also. But they are grateful because, you know, it marked their lives. It marked a change in their lives. So, and I'm grateful also to be part of that. And it's so nice to see them again, smiling, happy, and encouraged and encouraging others, you know, to hug them and see them again is also very rewarding.
That's so amazing to listen to all your testimony from all the journey you shared with us. Thank you so much that you took us on the journey from not willing to live, you wanted to die, to finding God in your life. You changed it totally. It was not just theory. You put Him as a partner. You experienced a lot of joy with Him and giving, and He just blessed you. And then even as you change your life totally to become a full-time worker for the Lord, to help others. Now at Weimar University, helping at the depression recovery seminar, but at the same time, giving all these sacrifices, traveling to Venezuela and helping those who are in the biggest need at the moment.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the time. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your life. Thanks for all the blessings you're giving to us.
Thank you for this opportunity.